I offer my prayerful salutations at the divine lotus feet of our most beloved Bhagwan. Respected elders, brothers and sisters, dear young adults, loving Sai Ram to you all. இலங்கையில் உள்ள பக்தர்கள் அனைவருக்கும் என் சாய்ராம்ஸ், அன்பு கலந்த சாய்ராம்ஸ். இந்த எம்சிஸ் பேசுகிறத கேட்டதுக்கப்புறம் நான் டெஃபினட்டாக தமிழில் பேச ட்ரை பண்ண மாட்டேன். What a glorious day and a half it's been. Yesterday was just filled with love and devotion from all the devotees here, from all the different programs that we got to witness. I'd like to take a moment to offer my gratitude to all the organizers and every single volunteer who made this event happen. You know, it was just very moving to see that in this land where Lord Sri Ram and his greatest devotee, Bhakta Hanuman, have set foot in this land, to have an opportunity to set foot here and experience the love of all the devotees through, Swami's love here. And for those of us who are here from other countries, to experience the love and hospitality of everybody. I actually felt like I was in Parthi as our car pulled in to see the sea of white, the brothers in the white, and the ladies were all in yellow yesterday. It totally reminded me of Parthi. So once again, congratulations to all of you, the organizers, and kudos for your efforts. The Telugu word for effort is shrama. Once when a devotee was thanking Swami for sending relief for people that needed relief supplies, they said, Swami, enta shrama tiskunnaru Swami. And Swami said, Bangaru, idi shrama kadu prema. This is not effort, this is love. And that's how Swami wants us to serve, doesn't it? We watched that beautiful play by the young adults, very thought-provoking, very deep. To see young adults share such deep messages is very, very inspiring indeed. And Swami has a way of demystifying the most esoteric, most philosophical, aspects. And he says, if you take the first word of the Bhagavad Gita and the last word and put it together, string it together, it forms Mama Dharma. Dharma from the first word, Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre. Matir Mama is how the Bhagavad Gita ends. He says if you combine the last word Mama and the first word Dharma, it says my duty. And this morning, Brother Krishnamurti eloquently, so much purity and innocence and love, he shared how work is worship with all of us. Each of us have our own duties to perform. A student's duty is to study well. Parents' duty is to raise their children dharmically. So, and SSC teachers' duty is also very important, right? Because they're molding the future citizens of the world in a dharmic manner. And part of our dharma, our duty is this non-spiritual life. And Brother Arvind, you touched upon this beautifully yesterday. But we are all here at this conference as spiritual aspirants, as sadhakas. And most of the time, we end up struggling with how to balance these two. But what does it mean to live a balanced life? In the US, where I come from, there is a lot of talk about work-life balance, school-life balance. And even in the Sai organization, we may say Sai work and non-Sai work balance. This is something we tend to struggle with. But is this the balance that we are talking about here? Is this the topic that's given to me? If that's the kind of balance you're looking to learn about, I'm sure there's a dozen TED Talks you can listen to, or meet with a life coach and have a few sessions and they'll tell you how to balance that. I don't think that's the reason we're here. I don't think that's the reason this topic was given to me. So the question is not really work-life balance, but it's Sai work and life balance. Now, Uncle Manoj, in your welcome address yesterday, you mentioned that anything can trigger transformation. Anything. You said it could be a word, a song, it could be a workshop that maybe you attended yesterday, hint, maybe the awareness workshop. So anything can trigger that transformation in you. And it can be that catalyst for a change. Now, we've heard about boot camp training programs, fad diets, intermittent fasting, which is really catching on a lot these days, and prescriptions for better sleep, And Sister Ramadevi, you talked about it yesterday. And these are, mind you, these are multi-billion-dollar industries. And some of you may be even employed in some of these industries here. But do these provide life-sustaining solutions? That is the question. So yesterday we attended the East workshops. Swami's teachings, right? Having that awareness of your inner divinity. I am Sai, I am God. Swami is in me, I am Swami. If we believe I am Swami, will I eat that second burger? Will I go for that fourth slice of pizza, knowing fully well it's going to give me indigestion and I'm going to lose sleep? Asking that question, asking that deep question. Now, Uncle, you also mentioned about Tulsidas. And I want to, you talked about in the reference of a transformation, how the transformation came from his wife Saraswati Bai, and I'm sure a lot of men would agree that it's through your wives you may have been drawn to Swami. So yesterday at the workshops, Uncle Ashok kept reminding everybody. Yes. So I want to share the story of Srinivasa Nayaka. Now many of you may or may not be familiar. He was a wealthy merchant. In fact, in those days, he was called Navakoti Nayakar. In those days, he owned 9 crores of rupees, which is a lot of money. He was a merchant, and this, yesterday, Brother Arvind, you talked about Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. It is the same wealth that brought him to Swami, that brought him to God. And he turned into the saint Purandaradasa. Swami has reminded us on several occasions. He said, of all beings, of all living beings, the rarest it is to have a human birth. And women, for the women, he said, it's even more special to be born as a woman. So give yourselves a pat on the back for that. So Adi Shankara, Saint Adi Shankara has said, 3 boons are very, very rare to get. They are Manushyatvam, Mumukshatvam, Mahapurushasya Samshrayam. Manushyatvam is this human birth that we've all gotten. Mumukshatvam is this intense desire for liberation. I need to reach Swami. I need to get this, having that intense desire. And Mahapurushasya. Swami is not just a Mahapurusha, he's God himself. And we are so fortunate, we can again pat ourselves on the back, that we have been blessed with all 3. But what are we going to do with it, is the question. Fantastic, you have all of these blessings. Now that you have it, what are you going to do with it, is the question of the hour. As Swami would beautifully say, is this life been given to you for khana, pina, sona, marna? For eating, drinking, making merry and dying? No. Jantunam narajanma durlabham. It is so rare to get this human birth. And he has given us humans these faculties so it will help us rise from the animal to the human to the divine. That's the ultimate goal. We can't be in our comfort zones and say, no, I am human. Swami is with me, but Swami is not in me. Doesn't work like that. Just because we are not comfortable with the idea, we cannot say it doesn't. And again, Brother Arvind and Brother Krishnamurti, you actually covered a lot of my talking points. And if it's any source of consolation, I'm not going to take extra time from you. Just being the speaker that's between you and lunch, I'll be cognizant of time today. Brother, you touched upon the 4 Purusharthas. And this is, in common parlance, known as the goal of life. Now, these are, as we discussed, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, which is righteousness, wealth, desire, and liberation. These are given a worldly meaning in general, but Swami reminds us that the real meaning is actually spiritual. And he says, the term dharma does not pertain to the body, doesn't pertain to this human body. He says, the true dharma of every human being is to determine what is permanent and what is transient, and to seek that and realize that divine. Now, artha, we may often think it's just accumulation of wealth, accumulation of property. But so Swami says the real wealth that man should acquire is divine wisdom. Kama, we generally tend to associate that with desires for material things, material objects, mundane desires. But Swami says madness for God. In fact, he says madness for God is the most beneficial and least harmful. So if you have that pichi for God, keep it up. And liberation, of course, is shedding of this bodily attachment to attain unity with God. Now, combining these 4 Purusharthas, the Purusharthas actually symbolize dharmic earning, with a desire for liberation. In one sentence, if I were to put that, to earn your wealth dharmically and desire for liberation. And Swami has further simplified it by giving his 4 Fs. Follow the master, face the devil, fight till the end and finish the game. He says, follow the masters, observe righteousness, as we saw in the play, observe righteousness. Face the devil means overcome these obstacles. And these temptation, when you're trying to earn wealth, you are faced with these situations where there's an easy way out, where there is an opportunity to cheat somebody, not report something on taxes. There are all these easy ways that you can get around fighting against that. Face the devil. And fight till the end means waging war. I know several speakers before me alluded to that. The kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya, the 6 vices, beginning with lust. Fighting till the end, that's what this means. And finishing the game means not stopping until we achieve this goal, not giving up very easily. So how do we go about doing this? That is the question, right? In my opinion, my humble opinion, living a balanced life means doing all work as God's work and not separating something as this is office work, this is personal work, and this is organization work, and this is Sai work. Doing everything as God's work. That is how we can balance. I feel that's a secret. Sometimes, as they say, the obvious we miss. The obvious thing we miss, and we try to make things complicated in life. And there are several stories. I know many of you may be tired and sleepy from the long day yesterday, and I hear this sleep workshop were really good, and they encouraged you to sleep more, sleep well. So for a few minutes, if you can forget about that and focus on what I have to share. I have a few stories that I planned on sharing today. The way I remember things is by stories or by experiences. So I'm going to share a few that I thought of. And in a divine discourse that Swami delivered to some devotees in the East Godavari district, in fact, it was from Mirtipadu, that's the place, and several of the delegates happened to be farmers. And Swami is so beautiful, Deshakala Paristitis, he was so good at that. He would look at the audience and he would he would say what they needed to hear. And to this contingent of devotees, where many of them were farmers, Swami spoke in a language that they understood. And he said, there is this Chinna Katha, even like a time like this when everybody is a little drowsy, Swami would suddenly say, okay, Chinna Katha, and then all the eyes would perk up. They would go, oh yes, and then the necks would crane to listen to what Swami has to share. And Swami narrated the story of sage Narada going out to seek Lord Vishnu, and he asks him, almost with a little bit of ego, and he says, oh Lord, I would like to know who is your greatest devotee. Please do enlighten me. And somewhere deep inside, Narada is hoping that Mahavishnu will say, of course it is you, Narada. Sada, you're always saying Narayana, Narayana. Who else could it be? But to his dismay, Lord Vishnu says, there is this villager, there is this farmer in this village in India. He is my favorite, dearest devotee. Yesterday somebody mentioned it's more important to be dear to Swami than near to Swami. So the Lord himself says, this farmer is my dear devotee. So now Narada is naturally very curious. He wonders, how can a farmer be more devoted to the Lord than me? So of course he travels there and he observes this farmer. And he says, he wakes up in the morning, he says a prayer. He says a prayer at lunchtime, and he says another prayer before going to bed. Throughout the day, I take the name of the Lord so many times. How can this man be a great devotee? So he comes back to confront Lord Vishnu and ask him, how is this even fair? And then Lord Vishnu tells him, before he performs every task, and what task could a farmer be performing? Tilling the land, sowing the seeds. He says, before he performed every task, he would think of me. Sarvam Vishnarpanam, he would offer everything to me. And this to me is leading a balanced life. And Swami gives this analogy, and he makes things so easy to understand, and that's the beauty of our loving Lord. He packages it so beautifully. In a divine discourse delivered in April of 1993, Swami gave this analogy. He says, imagine there's this tumbler of water, this glass of water. You add a teaspoon of sugar in it. After you add the teaspoon of sugar, if you take another teaspoon and take the water from the top and drink it, The water is going to be tasteless. It's not going to be sweet. If you want this water to be sweet, what do you need to do? You take a spoon, you dip it in there, and you stir it. And now, no matter where you take the water from, it's going to be sweet, isn't it? And Swami says, your heart is the cup. Your heart is the cup, and divinity is the sugar. So try to picture this in your mind. Your heart is the cup, divinity is the sugar, the worldly desires, this is the water. And Swami says, using the spoon of intellect, your buddhi, when you stir this water, which is your spiritual discipline, your sadhana, divinity will spread all over, and your life will be filled with sweetness. Where, as Sister mentioned, I had the good fortune of studying in Swami's Anantapur College, and we had some chores that were assigned to us on certain days of the week, and the chores included chopping vegetables, rolling chapatis, and sweeping some of the areas. And Swami would say, when you're chopping the vegetables, imagine you're cutting the ego. He would say, when you're sweeping your rooms, imagine you're sweeping these arishad vargas, you're sweeping these vices away. And he would say, when you're rolling the chapati, just imagine this, ladies. Ladies make better chapatis than men. That's why I'm turning towards the ladies. So if you want round chapatis, look this way. If you want amoeba-shaped chapatis, look in this direction. So he would say, when you're rolling the chapatis, imagine you're expanding your heart. Can you imagine that? If every time we rolled a chapati and we thought, I'm going to expand my heart, every chapati will come out perfectly, right? And in a simple act of cooking a meal for a family, Swami explains how you practice karma marga, bhakti marga, jnana marga. When a lady goes to the store and she chooses, I'm going to go to this store and not this store because the vegetables here are fresh, the vegetables here are organic, this is secured dharmically, follow all the shuddhis, patra shuddhi, paka shuddhi, padartha shuddhi, all the different bhava shuddhi, which of course the lady practices when she cooks the food. He says she's using jnana, she's using her buddhi, and she's securing these products. And the very act of cooking this meal is karma, right? She's performing this act. And when she feeds it to the family, to the husband, to the children, to the in-laws, she's serving the God in each of them and serving the food to them. So he explains how beautifully every act we do can be done with this thought in mind. And in another divine discourse, Swami said, when a farmer tills the land, he can think he's tilling the field of the heart. When he's sowing the seeds, he can imagine he's sowing seeds of good thoughts in his heart. And for the plant to grow, he's supplying it with the water of love. How beautiful it is. If we can remember that each time we are out gardening in our backyards, our flowers will grow better, our trees will grow taller, and our vegetables would be more lush, looking beautiful. In the early days in Puttaparthi, I know several of you devotees who are from Chennai, from that area, would remember Auntie Kamala Sarathi. She was an excellent violin player. She used to be in Delhi in those days, and Swami drew her to him through her violin teacher. So Kamala Sarathi Auntie was from Delhi, and I'm sure all of you would agree that people from the north make better chapatis. So Swami once sent for somebody to her residence in Parthi to get chapatis. He knocked the door and said, Swami sent me here to get chapatis because you're from the north. So Swami said you would make good chapatis. But the ladies were very worried because they didn't think they were making chapatis for Swami. They were making this for themselves to eat. So they realized that these chapatis didn't come out perfectly. But nevertheless, you don't deny the Lord. So they sent the chapatis. But look at Swami. He sends that message. No matter what you do it perfectly as an offering to God. Right? In Tamil, there's a saying, Ainati Seivana Tirindache. No matter what it is you're doing, do it properly. Do everything as an offering to God. Because you don't know which chapati the Lord is going to take, which dosa the Lord is going to take from you. But the corollary is also true, mind you. There is this Chinna Katha that Swami's narrated, which I have shared in my SSC classes. It's a story of this builder who knew that, he was about to retire, and his boss tells him, build this one last home and then, you're off the hook. So he starts building this home, and he does a shoddy job. He cuts corners, he uses poor quality products, and he builds this home. Poor quality paint, poor quality carpet. And then when he hands over to his boss and he says, yeah, it's done, there you go. The boss says, for your amazing work and the time you've put in, I'm going to give you this house as a gift. So look at that. Because he didn't do that, he thought somebody else is going to get it, and he ended up with a shoddy product. So every time we do something, we offer it, we think of it as an offering to God. In the college and hostel, our seniors and teachers would tell us this one rule to live by, and I'm sure the other alumni brothers and sisters here would agree with me. Sarva karma bhagavat prityartham. Whatever it is you do it in such a way that will please the Lord. And if we remember this in the back of our head, we will never say a word that hurts somebody. We'll never do a deed that Swami wouldn't approve. We'll always be asking, would Swami approve of this? Would this make Swami happy? So something to remember is Sarva Karma Bhagavat Prityartham. I think I see some children up there. Do every activity with the sole intent of pleasing God. Do only actions that will please God, and as you're performing them, think, will this make my Swami happy? Then you will never make a single mistake. Time for a story now. In the 80s, the brothers were doing some Grama Seva in Puttaparthi, and when they came back after a long day at Grama Seva, Swami eagerly went to them and asked, did you meet Radhamma? Did you meet Radhamma? And the boys were like, Radhamma, we met several ladies, Swami. We distributed several food packets, several saris. Which one was Radhamma? They weren't quite sure. And then Swami is describing them, so it will come to the memory. He says, the lady who offered you ragi, sankata, and the chutney, peanut chutney. Oh, yes, Swami, that Radhamma. Yes, we do remember her. And then Swami tells them, she is the best midwife in the world. And these boys are a little shocked. That's an obscure village. If you think Puttaparthi is obscure, that is even more obscure. How can she be the best midwife? What kind of training would she have gotten in this village, in this remote village? And then Swami says, you know what she does? Every time before she goes to help with a labor and delivery, when these villagers couldn't always afford to go to a hospital nearby, so they would just use help, domestic help, and aunties and uncles, aunties who have had experience would come and help with delivering the babies. Every time when she would be called to do one of these deliveries, she would say, Sai Arpanamastu. And she would say, Swami, I offer this to you. Every child, sister was mentioning, as a doctor, every child that she receives at a C-section, she says, this is you, Swami, this is your child. So she would say, Sai Arpanamastu. And when I am the doctor, everything has to be perfect, kada? It has to be perfect. And when I take over, it's the best. Therefore, she's the best midwife ever, he said. So when we make this action spiritual, it reaches him. Now, all of you are familiar with Professor Kasturi, Swami's biographer. He's written the Satyam Shiv Sundaram and my favorite book of all times, Loving God. Now, Professor Kasturi, he was waiting to retire so Swami would call him and make him his biographer. So he was waiting for that opportunity. He just had a few more weeks to go in his stint as a professor. At that time, he came to have Swami's darshan in Chennai when Swami was visiting Chennai. And he was so excited. He said, Swami, few more weeks and then I come to you. I'll come to do your work. Swami said, you've been with me so many years, Kasturi, you still haven't understood? All work is my work. You teaching at the university is also my work. And while I'm sharing the story of Professor Kasturi as a professor, I'm reminded, I'm sure Brother Arvind, I've heard you share this in some satsangs as well, and heard Professor Bhagya share this as well. Professor Bhagya used to teach at the business school in Prashantanilayam. He went through a stage in life where he felt he had been there, done that. He had achieved all greatness in the world. And he felt, why am I doing this? I came here for, to be a sadhaka. Why am I going and teaching these boys, about business and management and money management? So he decided one day, Swami had given him some wonderful experience and he had experienced that bliss. He never wanted it to end. So he's like, I want more of that. So I don't want to be doing this teaching students business. So he wrote a letter to Swami and he said, Swami, I'm going to, please, this is a letter of resignation. Please allow me to do this, and I only want to focus on meditating, on praying to you and getting closer and closer to you and reaching self-realization. Swami came, took his letter, but Swami wasn't happy. You would think he says, wow, look, you want the ultimate realization. That too, it's the last stage. You don't want to let that go. And Swami told him, almost with anger, with a stern face, if you separate your work as worldly and spiritual, Please mark Swami's words. Even in 1,000 lifetimes, not 1 or 2 or 3, even in 1,000 lifetimes, I will not give you what you're seeking. So if you are the kind of person that goes, like my center, we meet on Saturday mornings. Saturday mornings, 9 to 11 is for Swami and the organization. The rest of the time is for me. If we separate it like that, we will never get the ultimate. We will never get what we are seeking. Needless to say, the professor continued to teach, and the message had landed. There was another professor whose father had settled down in Parthi, and he felt, I am ready, now I've finished all my responsibilities, my children are settled, they're self-sufficient, my wife has passed on, I've sold my property. I just want to leave and go to the Himalayas. He had decided, he had made this decision, come to this decision. And when he expressed his desire to Swami, Swami asked him, why do you want to go to the Himalayas? He said, Swami, for, sakshatkara, to get self-realization. Who is going to grant you this sakshatkara? Swami, you. Well, I'm right here. Why do you have to go to the Himalayas to get sakshatkara? And Swami says, I will give you work here in the ashram. You do your work every day, continue to do your sadhana, and I guarantee you, I will give you sakshatkara. And he's given us all work. Now you are here because you're involved in the organization in some shape or fashion. You might be an SSC teacher that was responsible for this wonderful presentation. Those children did not teach themselves. Somebody taught them, somebody put the costume on them. You may be doing service in any capacity. There were so many young ladies who would have rather been here listening to the satsang. They're standing outside the restrooms, making sure they're clean so we can use them. I'm sure there are devotees here, volunteers, who have not set foot inside this hall, heard a single talk, but who have been working tirelessly. We don't have to see them. We don't have to pat them on their back. Swami knows. There is this beautiful incident, I don't mean to digress, but with the Sevadals from Orissa, Swami was very, very, very fond of them. He openly showed his fondness. There was a Sevadal during Swami's birthday time, when the sewers get backed up because everybody's using it and not using it properly. There was a Sevadal who jumped in that cesspool and cleared the blockage. And when Swami learned of this, the all-knowing Lord knows everything. Swami called him and blessed him profusely. He said, you are going to be a Jivan Mukta. Instantly, I'm going to give you realization. Can you imagine that? So nobody else knows, but the Lord knows. So if you are out here at this conference and you think my work is not being noticed, it doesn't matter if your coordinator notices or Brother Manohar notices. Swami has noticed. That is all that matters. Why am I giving you all these stories, right? Like I said, that's how I remember. So even if you're tired and sleepy and you leave and you remember this one story, just one story that says, all work is Swami's work. All work that is good work will reach Swami. That is enough. You don't have to remember any of the other things I've shared. This story sharing would be incomplete if I didn't share an incident involving Professor G. Venkateswaran. He served as the Vice Chancellor when I was a student. I was in this physics stream. Professor has come to the Anantapur campus for a few lectures as guest lectures as well. Swami once gifted the professor a fountain pen. It was a big deal. Typically we tend to use ballpoint pen or a regular ink pen, but Swami, some of the brothers are smiling because you know this story. But no matter how many times you repeat it, I think it's worth repeating some of these stories. And I like to say that my ears are closest to my mouth, so before you hear it, I hear it as a reminder to me. You just happen to hear it along with me. Swami once gifted a fountain pen to Professor Venkateswaran, and a couple days later, he noticed that Professor Venkateswaran was using a regular ballpoint pen. And he wondered, he said, why are you not using the pen I gave you? And Professor Venkateswaran, in all humility, and I'm sure it came from a place of love, he said, Swami, for all spiritual work, I use this pen that you gave, Swami. For all non-spiritual work, I use the regular pen. And Swami said to him, no, Venkateswaran, in life, everything is spiritual. Whether you believe it or not, whether that's your attitude or not, Swami is saying in life, everything is spiritual. Whether you're preparing slides for tomorrow's program, whether you're working on replacing these flowers tomorrow, which is obviously Swami's work, or you're doing something at home. Maybe there could be a mother who's taking care of a sick child who was supposed to be in the play, couldn't be here. She's doing her dharma. That too reaches Swami. By doing well in one aspect of life, and another aspect of life should not suffer. And I'm going somewhere with this. Some people may do very well at work, but they may put very little or no effort in the organization that Swami has lent his name to. Like a service coordinator he may take up a position, but oftentimes, you may say, I don't have the time for that, somebody else will pick up the slack, somebody else will do it if I don't do it. But do you really want somebody else to take that opportunity for Swami, to get Swami's grace? Yes, you may think of it and say, oh, I'm doing seva by allowing him that opportunity. But it is all of these, Swami gives us opportunities to earn his grace. Right? The reverse also applies. Your involvement in the organization also should not make your work suffer. Swami would never like that. Since we are talking about balancing, I had to mention that. Here amongst us, here in this audience here, and I'm sure there are several back there, we have several inspiration leaders in the organization. They are all, if you look around, they're all quite successful in their careers. And they just look around who's sitting next to you. How is this possible? How did they manage this? Swami wants us to do well in both aspects of life. And yesterday, brother, you alluded to that beautifully. When you, during that stage of your life, focus. You should do well. Swami encouraged that. That's why it's important to infuse every aspect of your life with Sai. In the US these days, plain water is not good enough. Everybody's into infused water. Infused with raspberries, with strawberries, plain water is not good enough. Why do we do that? Because it makes the water sweeter and taste nicer. Can we infuse our life with Sai? Can we infuse Sai in everything that we do so everything we do becomes sweeter? That is the challenge for us. And progressing spiritually doesn't mean that we abandon our duties and responsibilities. Swami would say, Dil mein Ram, haath mein kaam. Your mind should always be on God, but your hands should be constantly working. And somebody else alluded to it, hands in society, head in the forest. And if we do all work as God's work, then it begs the question, why should you even participate in a service project as part of the organization? If you do work at home as a mother, and if you're working in your company, you're involved in service project, why should you even serve as part of the organization, right? It's a very logical question. You may be wondering, why should I go to a service project when my coordinator calls me and says, I need your help this morning? Why should you do it? And Swami does this beautiful analogy on the word seva, and he says, do seva so you can be saved. And I took, Sairam, Swami gets nothing out of us doing seva. Let's not be confused. And I took Uncle T.G. Krishnamurti's permission to share this story. I'm sure he will narrate it in a more animated fashion, in a much more beautiful way. And he has actually narrated the story. He shared his experience in a Sanatana Sarthi. I urge you to go read it. And it's so beautifully he's described it. So Uncle TGK once on his way from Bangalore to, we all lovingly call you Uncle TGK, I don't mean any disrespect. So Uncle was traveling to Puttaparthi from Bangalore with his wife, late Srimati Soundarya, again, who is a mentor to so many of us Balvika students in Chennai, and another friend. So they were driving to Parthi. On the way, near Chikbellapur, the vehicle met with an accident. That itself is a beautiful way. Uncle narrates very beautifully how all the coins, Swami took care of so many things. He was trying to swerve so he doesn't hit a buffalo. There was a ditch to this side, but he didn't land there. The car did 4 somersaults. He could actually look up and see the sky. Uncle, am I saying this correctly? Uncle is showing me 4 times. The car did 4 somersaults. But it landed perfectly on its 4 wheels with a tank full of gas. None of this is by coincidence. Coincidence, you may say. So naturally, everybody took a hit. Thankfully, Auntie Soundarya was okay. The gentleman in the back was fine. And then Uncle sustained some injuries. Collarbone fracture, kada Uncle? Right shoulder. But somehow he managed to, I don't know how he did that, he managed to take his vehicle to Chikbellapur. And he contacted his people in Bangalore. And soon he found himself in Chennai. He went and saw a doctor. Doctor said, we don't have to do anything. There is injuries, but in a few weeks it'll become all right. And promptly Uncle sends a telegram. This is not to be confused with the telegram app we use these days. Uncle actually sent a telegram, and those days telegrams would be no more than 2 lines, and usually a telegram is associated with bad news. So Uncle sent a telegram saying, Swami, I met with an accident. I will come and see you as soon as I'm able to. Uncle, please correct me if I'm sharing anything incorrectly. And he sends the telegram to Swami. That's it. He has not shared about this to anybody else. Few weeks pass, and uncle promptly goes to see Swami. And as he enters, he sees Captain Oberoi, who was managing the airport in Prashantanilayam, in Puttaparthi. And he says, "Oh, how are you?" He, of course, lovingly called him. They were friends. And he said, "Oh, TGK, how are you? I heard about the accident." He says, "Who told you about the accident?" And this Captain Oberoi is describing everything in graphic detail. And uncle's wondering, "I have not even told Swami. Where did you get all this information from?" And then he realizes, oh, of course, Swami intervened, because Captain Oberoi tells him on this day, it was July 29th, kada uncle? It was July 29th. So he says, on this day at 10:48 a.m., correct uncle? At 10:48 a.m., Swami came out to the veranda and he described that this is what happened. Of course, uncle says, "Oh, Swami saved me." He's so thrilled and he's waiting for an opportunity to thank Swami. All-knowing Lord comes out and nonchalantly looks. He doesn't even give uncle an opportunity to talk and express his gratitude. He just nods as if, "Oh, achava," that kind of look. He nods and he goes away. And as was the tradition, then Swami says, "Tomorrow I'm going to Vrindavan Ashram in Whitefield. Why don't you come with me?" And uncle was part of the entourage. And they arrive at Vrindavan. There was a contingent of about 450 Japanese devotees that day. And Swami calls uncle and says, "Why don't you speak a few words before me?" And uncle had this tradition of always starting his bhashan, his lecture, with a verse from the Bhagavatam. And in all earnestness, he begins to chant. And Swami says, No. I want you to narrate what happened in that accident." And of course, knowing uncle, he gives Swami all the credit. Doesn't say, "I had the presence of mind to swerve at the right time." Because sometimes our ego gets in the way, right? We say, "Just at that right moment, I made that right turn. I put that indicator." It's always Swami. So he begins to share and he says, "Swami saved me." Swami turns to him and says, "No, I didn't save you." He says, "Swami, you only saved me. I met with this accident, this happened, you saved me." Swami says, "I didn't save you. Are you calling me a liar?" Swami says, "No, I didn't save you." And then uncle, of course, he's not going to argue with Swami. He says, "Swami, please help me understand how, if you didn't save me, how am I standing here talking?" And Swami explains to him very lovingly. Swami says, "I didn't save you. Your karma phala, the good actions, that is what came and saved you." And the beautiful thing, brothers and sisters, Swami says, "You have done a lot of seva. You love me. You've been coming and going to Prashantanilayam. You have been coming and singing, but you do a lot of work for the organization. As the state president of Tamil Nadu, you do work, and people come and thank you. The beneficiaries come and say, 'Ayya mikka nandri ayya,' and they thank you. You don't say, 'I know.' You don't do that. You say, 'Enna thank panadinga.' Thank God, like A.R. Rahman would say, 'Ella pugarum iraivanukke,' right? Like that Swami, he said, give all that credit to Swami. And Swami said, every time when those beneficiaries thanked Swami, kaching, your bank balance was going up, your spiritual bank balance was going up when the accident happened. Without my permission, your karma phala came and protected you." It doesn't end there. Swami says, had you not come to Swami, you would not have done these good deeds. You would have been dead on the spot. So if there is no other reason you feel motivated to serve Swami in any capacity, do it at least with a "what's in it for me" attitude. It is going to save me. But I hope we can rise above that and do it for the right reasons. Thank you, uncle, for allowing me to share that. We are here in the land of Sri Lanka, where Lord Ram and Lord Hanuman have set foot. In the Sundarakanda, in the Ramayana, there are 7 cantos. The 4th is Kanda is Sundarakanda. Sundara means beautiful, but in that entire canto, you will not see Rama appear at all. In fact, it is said, if you read the Sundarakanda, you get the punyam of reading the entire Ramayana. It will solve all your problems, your miseries will be gone. In that Sundarakanda, what is it we study about? Throughout that canto, Hanuman is thinking, what would Rama do? What would Rama want me to do? And every thought, every action, every word he speaks, that is his Bible. What would Rama do? What would Rama want me to do? In the US, there is this, we have these bumper stickers. And one of the bumper stickers that I've seen is where it says something about Jesus. Let me find that. I just made a note of that. It says, WWJD, what would Jesus do? So for us, it would be WWSD, what would Sai do? what would Swami want us to do? If we can remember that. And always, if all our actions can be based on what would Swami do, what would Swami want you to do? So if you're the kind of person who's thinking, I don't have the time. She was supposed to talk about balancing life and work. I thought I'll get some tips on how much time to set aside. Like Swami says, in a day there are 24 hours, 4 hours of the morning, 4 hours, 4 to 8 in the morning and evening is set aside for sattvic activity. And Swami says the morning 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. is only for your spiritual progress. He gives beautifully this timetable, but she never gave us any kind of solution for living a balanced life. And we may think, I don't have the time. Not too long ago, I think it was a few weeks ago, I remember seeing this beautiful short clip that was in one of the SSSIO channels, social media channels. There's this short clip of Swami's discourse where Swami is saying, you say you don't have time. You don't have time to do puja, to do vrata, to do good work. You say your office work, your school work, your homework, you're so busy with all that. What do you do when you come back from work? You sit in your easy chair, you pick up that remote, and you are channel surfing. You're saying what to say. You will always make time for things that are important to you. Don't we? Don't we make time for things that are important to us? How much time in a day do we spend scrolling on our phones? Right? There was a senior devotee named Swami called her Radhamma. I'll end with this one story. Thanks for that cue, brother. Swami once called her for an interview and he asked her, Radhamma, do you have challenges in your life? She said, yes, Swami, I do. I have these children to look after, and then a husband, I have all of these duties. And Swami tells her, Radhamma, when you're in a dream, at what point do you realize you're in a dream? She says, only when I wake up from the dream, Swami. Swami says, I am telling you now, all of this, it's a dream. All of this is a dream. There's a reason Swami says, life is a dream, realize it. He doesn't say life is a dream, wake up from it. Right? Realize it. I'm telling you, all of this is a dream. Realize it. And if you don't get that awareness that it's a dream, our loving Lord says, pray to me for that awareness, and I will give you that awareness that this is all a dream. With these few words, I thank you all for your patient listening. Jai Sai Ram.